You can have a full-time job and be a real estate investor. Today our guest is Tamera Gaede, and we're going to talk with her a little bit about how she does it.
But first, I want to remind you guys that Hans and I put together a how to build your dream home guide. We've got an influx of people who want to build their own homes, and we thought just a fun little packet would be helpful for you guys. So we've got a completely free packet to help you get started. Email us hi@threevinegroup.com and we will shoot it over to you. Let's meet Tamera.
Perfect.
Tamera is one of my dear friends, and she's and she's Hans's friend too. But the reason we've got her on today, she has a team over at Lawyers Title, and they do a lot of our closings, our real estate closings. But Tamera's been in the real estate game for a long time. She's very young, but she's been in all facets of it too. Sales and marketing and home warranty and roofing and investing and marketing. And I have like a list this long of everything she's done. And so she's just a wealth of knowledge for us. And so we're going to pick her brain a little bit today. Tamera, hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Okay, so what do you want to talk about first, babe? Investing?
Well, yeah, I think one of the cool things about you is your network is incredible, but I want to start off with investments. So you've got a few rental properties. Just want to kind of touch base with you on like, how did you get into that? What does that game look like for you? How has COVID been? Like everything for that.
Yeah, that's a big answer.
Yeah. And go.
Yeah. Well, I just took advantage of my surroundings. That's why I did it. I mean, we all talk about in real estate and just in investing in financial planning in general about creating buckets of money, right? And having different avenues in which you're going to provide for yourself and provide for your retirement. And so one of the ideas that I wanted to implement was putting in some passive income streams.
Sure.
And so, why not take advantage of where I am? I don't know a lot about the stock market. I haven't spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to invest in that. I rely on financial planners for those sorts of things, but I don't have to do that in real estate because we all know real estate.
Right.
And so I just decided that one of those income streams was going to be rental properties. And so I took my first house that I bought and turned it into a rental and kind of went from there. That was a little bit of there had to be a tad bit of an emotional detachment over time from that one.
Because you lived in that one first.
I lived in that one. But it's okay. It's a structure. I didn't have a family in the house, so I understand why people get emotionally attached.
Sure.
But I probably would have been more emotionally attached had I raised a family in that house.
Sure.
So, but watching it kind of deteriorate a little bit, because that's what rentals do, that was a little bit more challenging.
The heart. Yeah, it's like a struggle to remember how emotional real estate can be when you're in it for so long.
And so I turned that one into a rental, and then off I went.
Awesome.
I wish I had, hindsight's 20/20, right? And you always wish you were in a different position at a certain amount of time. I mean, when we were in the recession, that would have been the time to gobble up tons of properties, because that's when I bought that one, and now it's over double the value to over double what I paid for it.
Wow.
So, but
Yeah. So talk about what it's like to be a landlord, like just in general. That's gonna be a fun one. And then maybe like what COVID has done to make that look a little different.
So there's a big difference between being a property owner and being a landlord,
right.
And you have to deal with the tenants and, emergencies and things breaking. And I mean, I had one tenant, I'm sitting outside about to go into an appointment. She was blowing up my phone. The water heater just started leaking gargantuan amounts of water. Luckily it was in the garage, but it leaked to the other side of the unit. And, it was in Irving. I didn't have an emergency plumber ready to go. I have a home warranty on the house, but you can't, they're not getting out there within an hour, right? So it's drop everything, start to call people I know, find an emergency, get someone out there. It was 3 hours before I could get someone out there. So water's just doing its thing, having fun in the garage. And I mean, they got out there, they stopped the leak, but then you have to deal with the residual damage too. Right. And as the landlord, you're the one in charge of all of that.
Right.
And so that was kind of the beginning of the end of me being a landlord.
Yeah, because you've recently switched over
Yeah,
from
you have a
doing it
property
yourself.
management company
Yeah.
now?
Yes,
Okay,
I
very
found a
cool.
property management company and turned the properties over to them. This was the first month they've had them,
Oh, nice.
and there's a level of freedom that comes with that because
Sure.
Yeah.
we have very demanding jobs. We don't work 8 to 5. I mean,
Right.
we work all of the time, and I mean, we are always working. And then you have to deal with I still have to deal with all the bills and the things that come with the houses. But the emergency things and the last minute, all of that, I didn't have the bandwidth to react to that anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was a very solid decision to do that. And
Yeah.
Awesome.
dealing with tenants isn't
It's not your favorite thing?
not my favorite thing. No.
Hard pass.
What about we talked a little bit about when you go into a property, when you buy it and there's already tenants in it. What's that like to have to gain tenants when you get a
Absorb those
property?
tenants.
Yeah. I've had a good experience and I've had a not so good experience.
Yeah.
When I bought the Irving duplex, I inherited tenants on both sides. And one of the tenants, she's quiet. She does her own thing. You know, she's actually a little under communicative, which scares me a little bit too.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like what's going on that I don't know about.
I wrote no meth labs on the contract, right?
Did I put that in there?
Making sure.
And the neighbor I inherited next door, I don't exactly know how long he was there, but it was somewhere between 11 and 20 years.
Wow.
I mean, it was a long stretch.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they both, neither one of them were in leases. One of them didn't pay a security deposit. One of them had not had their rent raised ever.
Wow.
And he acted, it was a husband and wife, and he acted kind of like the super for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what kind of fix it stuff happened either.
Yeah.
Right.
I fixed it. So, you know, I put them both in 6-month leases because I wanted to just see how it went. I did get a security deposit from him, and I did go to have the conversation about I am going to raise your rent.
Yeah.
And I had a number in my head, and he knew that this was going to happen. So they had already had the conversation. They came to me with a number that was higher than the one I was going to give to them.
Fantastic.
So
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just stayed quiet and let them talk.
Let's slide this piece of paper
Sign
across the table.
So, but neither unit had been remodeled since, I don't even know, maybe there was original things still in there, and the unit was built in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I made it with him 6 months before I couldn't handle him anymore. And so I kindly issued him a non-renewal of lease.
Yeah.
And that was in March of this year.
That's so smart
Oh, wow.
to do a 6-month lease when you gain a tenant, just to like get to know each other, kind of like.
Yep. I did that on purpose, and that's actually something you might, we may be approaching the end of COVID, but it is a strategy that you could put into place right now because we have an eviction ban in place until the end of the year.
Right.
So you can still, and COVID, the CARES Act is, you're going to get me on a soapbox here because it was created to help tenants, but they didn't do anything to help the property owners.
Sure.
Right.
And I think the statistic is 89-90% of property owners are mom and pop operation, single owner people.
you still
They're
have
not
carrying
big
costs.
property management companies.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I watched the CARES Act. I watched the subsequent things that happened after that to be very aware in case, and luckily I didn't have a tenant that didn't pay.
Yeah.
But it was that was very probable. I mean, I have one tenant. He's a golf instructor at a country club.
Oh.
Guess who got furloughed first?
Oh,
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So, and I called him and he said, "Luckily, I've saved my money. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me."
Oh,
So,
wow.
hallelujah.
Yeah. That's scary.
Just because you can pay something doesn't mean you want to, and then you have to deal with the problems that come with them not paying rent, right? Late fees and fines, and how do you address all of those things?
Somewhere. Yeah.
So, and TREC or TAR did a good job of issuing some things that would assist landlords and tenants come to an agreement on how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I was very thankful when they issued.
Like what? What was it? Like
It's a COVID form. I mean, it's a form specifically for COVID that talks about, you know, the landlord and the tenant agreeing to payment terms, how to satisfy the rent requirements without it breaking both ends,
Exactly,
because
yeah.
the idea here is you still need to figure out how to work together. And if you
Right.
give your tenants late fee after late fee after late fee after late fee, are you ever going to even get that money?
Yeah.
So some money's
Come
better
back.
than none money, right?
Right.
And so you kind of
Yeah.
have to come to that,
Yeah.
that realization.
Yeah.
There were ways to evict people there were still ways to evict people, and they issued
Sure.
information on that too. I mean,
Yeah.
if they violated the lease for any other reason other than the things that were listed
Right.
as required by COVID,
Mm-hmm.
you could still evict them. Now, whether or not you're going to get to court and get through court, that's a whole nother game.
Right.
But I was very disappointed in how the CDC handled this and how the CARES Act handled this, because they provided no coverage for the landlord or
Right.
for the property owner.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so, okay, what do you do if you can't afford to pay the mortgage payment for your
Right.
tenants?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, then you start talking about forbearance, which is, not a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
You can refi as long as you haven't lost your job. You can tack the mortgage payment.
Right.
If you're smart and your lender's smart or your mortgage company's smart, they're helping you tack the mortgage payments on the back end of the loan.
Mm-hmm.
That's your best refi, or tack them on the end.
Yeah.
But there was people that didn't get that option. And so all their payments are going to come due. Now what?
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
What are your predictions for that? What do you think it's going to look like?
Nationally will look much different than locally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're in a bubble. We're in a great bubble.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Yay for DFW.
Thanks, DFW. Yeah. No, we've had a few clients where we've sold their house, and then that final, seller's disclosure comes out, and they're like, "Wait, that's right, I didn't pay for 3 months." And it's like, "Oh yeah, no, you
Might
got to
wanna-
pay that
You need to
still."
know
That's
that.
the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of an unexpected little twist for a few of our sellers lately. But
Well, and I think you guys have some extra due diligence to do when you're gaining the
Sure.
listing,
Yeah.
trying to find out, because you already have to do a little bit of deep dive, right? You need to
Right.
find out if there's a divorce, or if there's anybody that's deceased that's on,
Mhm.
these are all things we have to find out
Right.
before we close, right? And have to work through
Mhm.
before you get to the closing table, long before you get to the closing table.
Yeah.
So add to it, have you had any financial hardship due to COVID that we need to know
Right.
about
Right.
that would affect
Mhm.
Yeah.
the sale of your home or whatever it is? Yeah.
And luckily, that's something that title helps with.
Yes.
So when you open title, they can see the forbearance.
Mhm.
Yes, we
Stuff like
can.
that.
And
Mhm.
we get the mortgage pay off, and we can see where
Yeah.
if they're delinquent or
Mhm.
we've got some
Mhm.
problems there. So there
Yeah.
are, yes,
So
we do help
open
to catch
title when you get a listing. Just do it now,
There you go.
right?
that. Yes.
Words of wisdom from Lindsay.
You're welcome.
All right, well, let me shift gears a little bit. So
Okay.
we met at a training thing that your company put on, and you have this incredible network, and you came to me, kind of pursuing my business, so to speak, and you said, "How can I help?"
Yep.
Now, honestly, that's what sales is, and so many people get that wrong. But for you, career in sales, what does that look like? I mean, you've done a little bit of everything, as Lindsay mentioned, but now, like, what would be your advice to somebody that's looking to get into sales? What would you tell them that they need to be doing?
Start with the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Be consistent. There are basics to sales, right? And so identify, first of all, if you're a salesperson.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
Do
huge.
you like
Yeah.
talking to people?
Right. that is helpful. Yes.
Are you afraid to pick up the phone and make a phone call?
Mhm.
Are you afraid to ask for a meeting? Are you afraid to speak in front of groups or radio shows or podcasts or
Yeah.
any of this? Because when you get a certain level of expertise, people are going to call on you to share what
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the, are you a salesperson? Identify,
Mhm.
be smart about that, because it sounds all great and wonderful because you can make a substantial amount of money as a salesperson.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that should be the only criteria that you look
Mhm.
at.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to be in an office at a desk all day? Well, guess what? You're not probably a salesperson.
Yeah.
So, make that cognizant choice or look within yourself to identify if that's something that is for you. And there's
Yeah.
difference between marketing and salespeople, right?
Right.
So that's, make a good career choice is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and this is what I coach realtors, new agents to do, there are the basic, you need to learn to time block. You
Mhm.
need to learn to lead gen, and you need to
Mhm.
put that on your calendar as part of your time block.
Mm-hmm. So time blocking, what is that?
Okay.
I'm working on things.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're good.
And we all fall off the time block wagon,
Right.
Sure.
I mean,
Especially
I
around
live
the
by
holidays.
die by my calendar.
Yes.
but you are a salesperson, so you have to lead generate. And what does that look like? That's calling people and asking for meetings and getting and being able to close the deal. And when you go to close the deal, it's how do I add value to what you're wanting to do?
Right.
It's not, you're not owed anything.
Yeah.
And I had that conversation with a realtor yesterday. We're not owed anything. We're so extremely grateful and thankful for the relationships that we have. And when you approach things that way, people see that.
Yeah.
And then they do want to do business with you. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So you've got to get to know them.
Yeah.
And just because you can get somebody's business doesn't mean you want it. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
That is true.
Learned that one the hard way.
Haven't we all?
Couple of times.
So do the basics. Get a CRM. You need to be able to manage your database.
Yeah.
You top of mind selling. If you're not top of mind, somebody else is going to sell to them.
Absolutely.
So you need to set up drip campaigns, and you need to call people, and you need to time block and lead gen. So those are the places where you start. Those are the basics. Make sure that you understand what your product. Know your product. If you don't know your product, don't try to go and sell it.
Right.
I had this last car I bought. They brought it to me, and this cute little girl, man, she'd been selling cars for 2 months. And I was asking about the features of the car, and she said, I don't know. And I said, okay, so we're going to have salesperson class 101. I'm just going to give you some advice, okay, as a salesperson. Go back to the dealership, sit in this car, and learn what it does.
Yeah.
And because if you don't know it, you can't sell it.
Yeah.
Right.
So my first real job was selling cars at Sewell, awesome company. And I had a gentleman walk in, and he said, what's the horsepower on this? And I said, I believe it's 310. And he said, you believe or you know? And I was like, and I'm going back to the book. So but I learned that lesson very quickly. I was like, if you don't know your product, you're not going to sell it. So
and if you are a salesperson and you hear I think, or I believe, or what they don't know.
All those words. Yep.
Those are words that we say when we don't know.
Right.
The other agent on the line starts talking like that, and we're like, oh, we are going to win this.
We're going to
win. Yeah.
And, I mean, people give me a hard time about that, but isn't that our job to win?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you want to be if you I don't not want to ever be the best at what I do. That takes a long time. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of education. But to be the best is very important because that's how you become successful, right? And, not everybody should follow my mantra, work harder and longer and faster. And
Tamara drinks my wine too.
That helps.
But
that's good. I think also it kind of ties the reason that you're such a successful networker salesperson and also are able to have so many rental properties and be a successful entrepreneur in both areas. I think it's because of that mindset, right? Wouldn't you say it tags over both sides of those things?
Yes. And I have some friends that would agree with this. I've got a little group of single girlfriends. We're all single. We are in charge of taking care of ourselves. And to me, that puts an extra layer of pressure on there because I don't have anyone to fall back on.
Right.
I'm in charge of making sure that I'm okay.
Yeah.
Financially and, and then, you wake up one day and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to retire. I'm going to try to retire in 20 years. Well, that sounds like a long time, but it's not when you're trying to plan for retirement. Yeah. So, that becomes also a major driver because you don't want to work for forever if you don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people do, but not me. I'm going to Costa Rica.
There you go. There you go.
We'll come visit you.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yes, you can come.
Save us a room.
So you have to, what motivates you?
Yeah.
And once you tap into what really motivates you, then that becomes your driver.
Yeah.
And people talk about the big why. What's your big why?
Yes.
I think that's a very broad concept.
Yeah.
I have to break it down into very.
I have 9 whys. Yeah.
I don't have one big one.
Right.
I just have drivers or motivators.
Peanut, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Peanut. Oh.
Yeah, he's useless. He doesn't pay any of the bills.
Yeah.
So he just looks at me.
Peanut's
and so
her dog, by the way.
Cutest little fuzzy white dog, and he wears bow ties everywhere he goes. How many bow ties does Peanut have? Don't lie.
I haven't counted them, but I would say
That
over
means a
50.
lot. There it is. Yes.
It's so cute. It's the cutest
He can
thing.
He
change
had
them
gender
every week.
identity issues on social media when I first got him. Everybody thought he was a girl.
Because he's so cute and fuzzy. Yeah.
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 And so everybody thought it was a
Little.
she. And so
What
I
kind
said, well, no, we're going to get bow ties so everybody will
There you
know
go.
it's a he.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's his
Makes sense.
signature.
I love
And
it.
that's why.
It's so cute. I love it. Okay, so we have a question for you.
Okay.
Everywhere we go, everybody knows we're realtors. Everywhere we go, people meet us or know us. The first thing they ask, party or somewhere, how's the market? That's the go-to question we get everywhere we go because we're realtors. When people find out what you do,
Mm-hmm.
is there a question that you get asked right off the bat because of who you are and what you do?
Well, if I say I'm Tamera Gaede, Director of Collin County Sales for Lawyers Title, I work for a title company.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know what that is. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, is that where we went to sign paperwork?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't do that part. I have an escrow
Right.
team and they do the closing,
Right.
right? So most of the time I just say I'm a sales rep.
Yeah.
Basic, easy.
Yeah.
I don't have to have fancy title. You know, I don't have to say I
Yeah.
have fancy title all the time. Just I'm a sales rep. That's what
Yeah.
I do. And I own that because I love it.
Yeah.
Do I get questions about what I do? I don't know, sometimes, but
Yeah.
you know,
What
one of
about
my
if you say you're an investor? Does anybody say like, "Ooh,
I don't ever lead with that one.
yeah,
Keep that on the DL.
yeah,
Not necessarily, but it's not my primary focus.
Right.
And to me, it is very important to keep my primary focus.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the job that pays me.
Mm-hmm.
right,
That's the job that allows me to have the ability to purchase
Absolutely.
rental properties,
Right.
right? And I see, you know, there's a lot of people that have side hustles. Nothing
Mhm.
against the side hustle. I have a
Mhm.
side hustle too. It's my
Mhm.
rental properties. But
Mhm.
it is very important that everybody in the real estate community know that I am Tamera Gaede. I am a sales rep for Lawyers Title.
Mhm.
That is what I do.
yeah,
Right.
And so I don't
Mhm.
want to do things that will take me away from my branding, my company,
Sure.
yep,
and what allows me the freedom to do the things that
Mm-hmm.
I like to do.
yeah.
So I stick with that one.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your
super fun.
time.
That's so fun.
Did want to remind everyone we've got that free guide. If you found some helpful information in this podcast, please like it, share it, subscribe, and we look forward to the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.